והנה בשושנה ישפט לסר alin desachrin l'shoshana. Now on the rose, there's 13 petals that surround the rose. Like it says that there's a rose that's a testimony. Tilim Simin Reshda Simin Samach. Vashoshana Aduma Be'etzem. And the rose is red in its essence. On its own, but through the fire it whitens. So if Parshas Shmos Daf Kaf Amud Beis Shehu Remez Al Galus HaShechina. Like it says in Zohar, that this hints to the exile of the Shechina. Galus Madai Nisbarer Nishamas Yisrael. That is, he purified the red to the white through the exile of the Medes. It was purified in the souls of Israel. Like it says, if your sins will be like red wool, they will whiten like snow. Benikres ayuma. And it's called the awesome one, the Shoshan Emek Ayuma, the rose of the awesome valley. Loshen Tokef, which hints to the concept of strength, Lahagen Alehem Minachitzorim, to guard them from the external, to guard the souls of Israel in exile. Parshas Truma, Kuf Kafaf Beis. Like it says in Zohar Truma, Ayuma Takifa Lagana Al Kola. That the word Ayuma also is strength to guard all. Hulu V'nat Lachelam Al Mailah, and takes strength from the supernal world. V'kach Shoshana Shabein HaChochim, so too the rose amongst the thorns, Mekabelas Mishoshana Ilah, Bechinas Rayasi, so too the rose amongst the thorns receives from the supernal rose the concept of my beloved. V'ayim beParshas Kisisa, Kuf Peites Beis, and look in Zohar Kisisa, uBePeresh Ramaz V'ayim Mashkos B'dibra Maschil Vani Ere B'Sinai, and look what it says about how I will see the rebuke of my enemies. Now, in order to bring down the flow from the Holy One, blessed be He, to the souls of Israel, Bechinas Shechina, which is the divine presence as it rests in Israel, B'Hiyosa Elam Hamedina, when it's, so to speak, in the capital city of Elam. Shushan Habira is the capital city of Elam, which is the country. The capital of Shushan is the capital of Elam. Elam Shubichinas Yirida Gedola, which is this great descent. Atzuma Me'od. Igra Rama Labira Amikta, like from a high height to a deep pit. That's what it's like, this Shoshana, the Shechina, in all the way down in Elam HaMedina. Because it's known that the infinite may be blessed is above all the radiative process of the order of creation. When everything comparison is not. And everything that's called the divine that surrounds and that fills creation, it's all of that is in a way of descent and drawing down alone. So Ein Sof Baruch Hu is higher than all that. Sof even Mamale. Im kein eich yarada or kol kach lislabish b'omek hayarida b'tachtis kol hayishtalshalus. If so, how did this light descend to being clothed in the depths of this deep descent, kol hayishtalshalus, of all the lower than in the bottom of all the order of creation, she'hein olamos nifradim, which are worlds of separation, shinikro Ture de Proda, the mountains of separation. Like it says that from there the rivers separate, that is into the 70 ministers of Noga, going into the Klippos, that from Kedusha into the Noga, that gives a unique. The truth is, you cannot have such a descent if it were just the regular order of creation from level to level, from cause to effect, since there's no comparison at all, only with a tremendous jump, that's not comparable at all. And that's why it says that I compare you, my beloved, to a deer. For example, a deer who runs very fast and jumps greatly, that you can't compare such a jump to other things. So to the descent of the divine light that comes down to be in exile with Israel, like the pasuk says, I will place my throne in Elam, or like it says, I will descend with you to Egypt and the like. How much more so the descent, to draw down from the concept of the Holy One, blessed be, that surrounds all worlds, the concept of my beloved, that which descends to be the concept of the divine presence as it rests within Israel and the world. How much more so if it's amongst the thorns. Like it says in Bechukosai, that even this, when they're in their land of their enemies, I do not desire to destroy them. See, if Ein Shem, look over there, describing this concept of Hashem's divine favor towards Israel when they're amongst their enemies. So this comes as a great jump. Like it says here, this one's coming, jumping on the mountains, skipping upon the hills, not in the gradative process, that it's not in the regular order, for that reason that we said, because the descent of the light goes into the mountains of separation, which is the bottom of all the gradative process of the worlds, the bottom of creation, that you can't compare there at all, that you could not get there through the regular process of flow, the godly revelation, only through a great jump, like a deer, that jumps. al heharim, upon the mountains. V'yochol ledalig mahar gavoa le'emek gadol, and it can jump from a high mountain to a deep valley, bidliga achas chulu, with one great jump. Kach bechinas yiridas or ein sof lios nimshach b'shchinas uzo yizbarech. So too, the descent of the infinite light to be drawn down into the divine presence of his strength as it rests, hamislabeshes b'ayin sarim, that is enclosed within the 70 ministering angels of the nations below, which is comparable to this great jump from a high height to a deep pit. Zeu al hare baser, and that's what it means in Shira Shirim when it says that you're likened to being upon the mountains, the split mountains, the craggy mountains, the mountains of separation. Perish Meloshin v'yivaser osam b'tavech, like the language by the Bris Ben Besarim that Avraham split the animals in the middle, Shuloshin Krisa v'Avdala Kidua, which is the concept of cutting or division as is known. Kach bechinas Ture de Proda Hanal, Nikro Hari Baser, so too these mountains of separation are called the mountains of division, Shnivdulu v'Nifridu, that they were divided and separated, bechinas Yesh v'Davar b'fnei Atzman, to be a concept for themselves in their existence. K'mayim Razal, Shifriden Machdu Soizbarech, like our sages said, that he divided them from his unity. Chuluk u'kadesh yislabshus elukus al haribaser azudo milatzvi, and in order to have this enclothement of godliness upon these mountains of separation, that's when we compare him to this deer. Because it needs to be with this giant jump and swiftness. Like we said, and this is what it says: I compare you, my beloved, to a deer upon these mountains of separation. That is when he needs to descend and be clothed specifically in these mountains of separation, Shnikro Ture di Proda, that are called these mountains of separation. And this is like the concept that's mentioned in Medrash Rabbah, Vayichi Parshat Sadik Tes Binyan Harim Gavnunim, when it talks about the mountains of Gavnunim that are mentioned in Tehillim, which I guess is a similar concept here to the Hari Baser. Look what it says in Shuva Yisrael, that over there it also compares it to the rivers that separate, that from there it separates from Gan Eden to the four heads, and it's brought in Medrash Rabbah Beraishis Parsha Yudvav, Elu Dalid Malchuyos, Pishon Zubavel Chulu, that this refers to the four kingdoms that we were exiled in. Pishon refers to Bavel and so forth. V'hagam ki bezor chelik aleph parshas vayetze kuf nun ches pirish abrashim hem dalid chayos hamerkava, and even though in Zohar Vayetze describes the four heads of the rivers to be the four animal angels of the supernal chariot, Kidleil, Hainu Shalagabi, Atzilus Tiu Vigar Moichad, Nikra Olam Abriya Olam Apiru. That is when you're comparing it to Atzilus. Then the world of Bria, where the angels are and so forth, then the world of Bria is a world of separation. As it says that their wings are separated, so to speak. Look what it says about counting to Chag HaShavuos. That's the concept of Bittul HaYesh, that they're in existence, but they're nullified. But nonetheless, they're still nullified. Like this, the tribe said to Yaakov, that just like in your heart there's only one, so too in our heart is only one. And but just like the animalistic soul is drawn down and informed through the tremendous descent, gradative process of creation, stemming from the face of the ox of the supernal chariot. That's our animal soul. So too, from these four animals, these angels of the world of Bria are drawn down through the gradative process from the dregs of the wheel-type angels, the concept of the mountains of separation, to actually go towards the Noga and the Klippos. Meaning to say that the fact that we compare the rivers to the angels and mefarish it as division of the rivers, and we also, on a higher level seemingly, compare it to the angels, and we're saying that really one is mishtashel from the other, and therefore both terms are correct. And eventually it leads to these mountains of separation. Okay, he putted. And so too, like it says by Lot, the language of hipared na me'alai, separate from me, and one man separated from his fellow. And it uses again the same language after Lot separated from him. Uberabos, and in Medrash Rabbah, Parshas Lech Lecha, Parsha Memalef, Pirshu Lashon, Kesus Keferet. There compares the concept of hipared lotna, of Lot to a donkey, using this word. Hipared is from the language of pered, which is a donkey. So when Avram said to Lot, separate from me, he was also saying that you're likened to a donkey. Vayin Sham, the Lashon pered, who pirud yoser melashon avdala. And look over there that the concept of the word pered, of the donkey, or that type of division, is a greater type of division than when you use the word avdala to separate. Like it says in Mishlei, that your desires ask for you to be divided. That because of your taivas, because of your desires, you end up with arguments and separation and so forth. And it's a concept of not just being separate, but also fighting. So too, when it talks about the Dor HaFlaga in Tehillim, it says, or in Hazino, it says, "V'afrido b'nei Adam," when he yatsev gvulos amim limisba b'nei Israel, that he divided the nations when they were fighting, or in a strong way, he divided them as nations, as is known that they had different languages and they were arguing about the Migdal. Like Rashi says, that once they started talking different languages to each other, they started arguing. Reish Parsha Sazino, the Kail Dora Flaga, So that division of into 70 nations and 70 languages is this very strong division, and that's why it says in Hazinu v'hafrido b'nei Adam. Vayin mashkazim inyan l'ara rashim b'torah or pashas v'era b'dibur ha'maschul yomer chulu kachas matecha chulu. Look what it says about these 4 heads in Torah or about how Moshe should take his staff and hit the river. Look what it says about how you should take for yourselves a heifer, the red heifer, minion, about this concept, how the main division is all the way below. I guess because it's talking about Tumas Mace and so forth. Therefore, if you want to draw down the concept of Dodi of my beloved upon these mountains of separation, to remember this the divine presence of his strength there. Therefore, it says, I compare you, my beloved, to a deer. This deer that jumps that we said. All the way down. Like what the concept of a deer is in Mori or Parshas Beraishis, Daf Mem Tes Amud Aleph, and in Zohar Beraishis, Parshas Achri, Daf Samech Ches Amud Aleph, Ul Ofer Hayalim, or this Ofer Hayalim, or this ram, like a mountain goat or whatever, or the strong ram. Hine Ofer Hayalim Hu Ayal Bachor. The concept of the Ofer Hayalim is a young, strong ram. Shmirutzaso biyoser b'mihirus atzumo, that it's has this strong running very swiftly. Meha'ayal hazakin kenoda, stronger than the elderly ram, as is known. V'hine bizman matan Torah ksiv gamkin v'yerid havayal har Sinai. So by the giving of the Torah, it also says that Hashem descended upon Mount Sinai. Shaya as gamkin bechinas yerida bechinas dilu gadol. That there you also had this concept of a great descent, of a great jump, shlo behadraga, incomparable to the height lishkon al har Sinai gashmi, to rest upon the physical Mount Sinai, lihigalus be'esh bekolos uvrakim, to be revealed in fire and voices and with thunder and lightning. Like it says that all the nations saw the thunder. However, this is not as great of a descent, great of a jump, like the great jump of the enclothement of godliness in the exile of the divine presence, like we said. Especially because the way we described it with the mountains of separation, which are truly a concept of these Hari Basar are this truly mountains of separation, and Nikrao Harim Gavnunim are these other kinds of mountains of Gavnunim that are also meaning separation. All these 4 different expressions of mountain are much lower than the concept of mountain that's described by the expression of Har Sinai. Because these were even too low for the Torah to be given upon them. Like it says, why are you desiring, why are you running around Tabor and Carmel, mountains in Israel, which we are calling Harim Gavnunim? These are mountains of separation, they're too low. And then there's the mountain that Elohim desired to sit upon. I wonder if that even refers to the mountains of Yerushalayim. But at any rate, it could refer to Har Sinai here. Look what it says about the smoke on Har Sinai that refers to the concept of place, time, and divine energy, or time, year, or world, year, and soul, that were included nullified to him and be blessed. That's why the so to speak, that's the concept of the smoke that was going upwards, that all of creation, so to speak, was included back in its source. And that happened specifically on Mount Sinai. Which is not the case with the other mountains of separation, which are a concept of division of your desires lead you to the vision and so forth. And that's why this descent on the mountains of separation is a much greater descent and comparable to the descent of Hashem upon Mount Sinai. And that's why it says by Mount Sinai that that we say on the second day of Shavuos in the Haftarah from Habakkuk, when you ride upon your horse, you're a chariot of saving. Shasus, that the horse even though it runs with a tremendous speed and force. Nonetheless, it does not run with such a tremendous force. It's not as fast as the deer. Now the concept of a horse, that refers to the letters of Torah. That the descent of the horses upon that are compared to the Mount Sinai, or like the letters of Torah that were coming down. Like allegorically, a horse that a man rides upon, that brings him with speed, that the person could not do on his own. So too, allegorically, the supernal letters that are compared to horses, they brought and drew down the revelation of godliness with an incomparable measure below. But rather, it's compared to a great speed and jump below, and commercial merutzas hasusim, that's compared to the running of horses. And that's why it says in Shiur, the voice of my beloved, here it's coming, jumping upon the mountains, skipping upon the mountains. And that this verse is referring to the time of giving the Torah. Look what it says further in the verses in Shiur about how I am sleeping but my heart is awake, with the concepts of the verse that the letters ask me about my sons. Or Parsha special about the concept of the man. And there it talks also about the horses, the chariots of power that were running after Israel. So too in the verse that says that it will be on that day that upon the horses it'll say, "Holy to Hashem," or the ringing of the horse's bray will, so to speak, like reading of its soul, I guess. They will say, "Holy to Hashem." Like I just said about how when the horse runs and saves. Achine. So who does he save it for? Nonetheless, we see, so that's all Matan Torah and Har Sinai. But we see that the strong ram jumps swifter in a in a multiplied measure, more than the speed of the horse. But like we see, that a horse, a person can ride upon and sit upon it when it's running. The person can't sit on a deer or a ram when it's running and jumping. Because of the tremendous swiftness and giant jumps. Imagine trying to ride a mountain goat when it's jumping on those giant mountains. So too you can understand allegorically, Lamaila, above, the Bekan that here where it says that my beloved is compared to a deer or these strong rams. The intention is that it's coming with a tremendous jump. Very, very great. That you couldn't compare it even in the time of the giving of the Torah. That is because the horse is a concept of a chariot to the concept of the supernal man who's called the king. And his chariot is this concept of the horses, and those are the letters of the Torah. But if you want to jump to the mountains of separation, not just to Har Sinai, you have to draw down from higher, from the concept of Zah, Zir Anpin, which is higher than the concept of Malka. I guess the concept of Malka maybe the concept of Malchus, whereas Zah is obviously the parts of higher than that. It says how I fell down and got up. I guess about the Gilui of Purim, when Avram didn't know us. And there it talks about Yitzchak is our father, in comparison. Obviously, but here we're talking about Avraham and the Bris Ben Besarim, so we're talking about the Mila of Avraham. And that's why it says, turn and compare myself, beloved, to the tzvi. Perek Sha'al Perek Gimel Al Shir Hashirim, or Pasuk Mem Gimel, Ki Ata Elokei HaElokim, that it says that you are the God of gods, the Ein Sof L'Rachmim Shalcha, and there's no end to your mercies. Ki Ata Mekor HaRachamim, because you are the source of mercies. That's how he touches out this pasuk. And that's why it says, I compare you, and therefore it says, I'm comparing you to this deer, I'm comparing you to the concept of your essence, that you're the master of mercies, that this comparison, is comparing, we're making a comparison to your essence, that you are merciful. That is, that the souls of Israel say this to Zer Anpin, that we are going to compare you to the concept of the essence and being may be blessed. The concept of Atik. So Zah being compared to Atik. And from there it's run down to be like a deer upon the mountains of separation. That if we're doing this comparison, we're, so to speak, lifting up Zah all the way to Atika Kadisha. From there we're going to draw down the divine presence that's compared to a deer with this great speed that goes down all the way to the mountains of separation. Like our sages said, that just like this deer, when it sleeps, one of its eyes is open and one of its eyes is closed. So too, even when Israel is not doing the will of the Holy One, blessed be He, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mabit aleim, the Holy One, blessed be He, gazes upon them, be'enu achas al kol panim, with one eye at any rate. Like it says, the eye of Hashem is upon those who fear Him. That's this concept of this open eye that doesn't sleep, like we mentioned at Tashlich, that's the concept of the fish that whose eyes don't close, that they hint to this concept of Eina Pekicha, that Hashem's eye is always open towards us, even if we are sinning. Mislabish al kol panim hashgacha al derech nisim de Esther, that the divine watching over us should at least be like the miracles of Esther, shemislabish b'levush, that it's enclosed in a garment, shezeu nikra beinu achas chulu, that's what's called the concept of watching us with one eye. Or I guess open miracles would be with two eyes. That's the concept of Israel trusts in Hashem, which refers to Israel above the concept of Zer Anpin. That you should trust is from the language to put mortar on the house, to build the house, to attach the bricks together. Lashon dibuk, a language of attachment. So Yisrael betach b'avaya means that Israel should attach ourselves to Hashem. She's dabik la'avaya or inso baruch hu v'atzmo. You should attach yourself to Hashem, the infinite light, may be blessed Himself. Dius udmei lecha, that we should compare ourselves to you, to ourselves, attach ourselves on high. V'zeu sov b'china soviv kol amin. And that's why it says you should turn to this comparison, because this refers to the makif, that you draw down the divine light that encompasses all creation.